The Chicago White Sox make a trade and then avoid getting swept by the Tampa Bay Rays. Let's talk about it next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong White Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fan-Sided Network. You can check out my written content at southsideshowdown.com. Also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button. Also, follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, leave a 5-star review, as that would be greatly appreciated. Well, the White Sox started Wednesday off by trading Robbie Grossman to the Texas Rangers. And we'll discuss that later in the show. But first, we got to acknowledge the White Sox avoiding getting swept by the Rays with a 4-1 victory last night. I'll talk about Chris Flexen pitching a strong game and rookie Bryan Ramos having a huge night as he made the case to stay in the big leagues beyond when Danny Mendick returns from the 10-day IL. And then I'll go over who was good in the series and who had a rough one. And then, like I said, we'll talk about Robbie Grossman being traded to the Rangers and how that impacts the White Sox future. But first, game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So, download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or the App Store. And game on! And again, great scene. That was like, it's such a small little thing, but it was one of my favorite things from Wayne's World. And yes, I am that old to remember Wayne's World. But the movie, when they're playing hockey in the street, game on, game off. It's a great time. Sip of coffee. Coffee always tastes better when the White Sox win. And if you're not watching on YouTube, I do have the Chicago White Sox uniform on, jersey, going with Harold Baines. So I have my Mark Burley jersey that I bought in 2005. And then I also have the Paul Konerko. So you'll see me mixing those in. And I know I've been hard on Chris Flexen. I think to the point where maybe I do have to buy a Chris Flexen jersey because I have been so hard on him, especially when it comes to his trade value. And he skyrocketed that value last night when he threw 6 strong innings of 1-run ball, allowed just 3 hits, walked 1, and struck out 8. Just to show you how far Chris Flexen has come, his ERA was 8.78 on April 12th. That was his 3rd start of the season. He gave up 13 earned runs in that span. 3 starts, 13 runs. He got to the point where he had to be demoted to long relief after that. And he seems to have found something because since then, 4 earned runs allowed. Even earned a spot back in the rotation after 2 relief appearances. And he has allowed just 3 earned runs during his last couple of starts, 6 walks, and he struck out 14. His ERA is down to 4.29. Oh, and he owns the Rays. Because 2 of his last 3 starts have come against the Rays, and he's allowed just 1 run off the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe Tampa will try to trade for him. Although you don't want to trade with Tampa because they're always going to fleece you. And maybe he's starting to find his velocity. Lamont Pope had this in the Chicago Tribune. Flexen averages 91.3 miles per hour on his fastball, according to MLB StatCast. And Pope found that when he was digging around, Flexen was averaging 93 miles per hour on his fastball on Wednesday. And it was something that Pedro did cite that was giving him success. So maybe, he's starting to maybe he's getting a little bit stronger as the season's going on. But give that man his flowers. And if he keeps pitching like this, package him up along with Eric Fetty and get some prospects in return. Because again, according to Bob Nightingale, Flexen is one of the players that the Sox want to trade before the deadline. And speaking of prospects, Bryan Ramos, huge night. The 22-year-old went 2 for 4 with an RBI, run scored, and a double. He absolutely smoked it. And if it was just a few feet higher, it would have been his first career home run. He has reached base safely in his first 4 games, and now it's begging the question, should he stay on the big league roster beyond when Danny Mendick returns from the 10-day IL? Because that's the plan. That was the whole reason why Ramos was called up. Ramos was on the 40-man roster. Mendick's back acted up. They had to put him on IL. They needed somebody at third base. And this is what you do when you bring up a top prospect, because Ramos is one of the Sox's top 5 prospects. You play him. See what he can do. And he has been shining. But it sounds like the plan is he's going to go back to Double-A Birmingham after Mendick is cleared to play. But should he? I mean, he's the future at third base. Yohan Moncada, he's done. They're not going to exercise his team option after all these injuries. Ramos is it. Now you just got to figure out what is the best way to develop him. And it's a lost season. So is the best way to develop him sending him back to Double-A? Or even sending him down to Triple-A? Or is the best way for him to develop is to just go through the rest of the season playing in the majors, knowing that eventually baseball is going to come for him and seeing how does he react. And if baseball does come for him and he doesn't adjust well, then you can maybe send him down. But I think we got to find out what we have here. Let's see if he can now drive the ball for power. Let's see how he adjusts. Let's see how he can handle success and failure at the big league level. Because again, it's a lost season. If he struggles at the plate, there's still something to be gained. And if he continues to be stellar, well, now you definitely know that you have a future foundation piece. Don't Oscar Colas him. But at the same time, you know what? It's a win-win for the Sox, because if you do send him down, well, okay. Can't hurt for him to get some more at-bats. You can't hurt for him to go down to Triple-A even. Although, again, he's seeing the best pitching right now. So it's an interesting conundrum. One of the first times the Sox actually have an interesting conundrum. And Ramos and Flexen, though, they weren't the only ones that were good in this series or even last night. And let's go over who else played well and who didn't next on Locked On White Sox. Hey, am I a bad son that I still have not gotten my mother something for Mother's Day? Even worse, I can't make the trip down to see her this Mother's Day. But then again, I can make up for it because it's never too late to show mom your love this Mother's Day with DoorDash. Surprise mom with flowers, gadgets, and self-care essentials all in one place, delivered right to her door. I think I'm going to have to get some flowers, have that delivered along with maybe a gift card. My mom's a huge fan of eating out at different restaurants, especially when they go down to Florida. And I can get her thoughtful gifts she deserves with the convenience I need and you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead for when flowers and gifts should arrive to her door with DoorDash. I think I'm going to do that for my mom after I wrap up the show. I know I've said this the last 2 shows, but I definitely got to do it today. Order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. That's Locked On MLB. Ordered using DoorDash today. Terms apply. And game off. Again, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Hey, want to talk a little smack? Throw a little emoji at them. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challengers. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot Panchico machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. And game on! And hey, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox host the Cleveland Guardians tonight at 6:40 p.m. Central. Hopefully the Sox can kick off a 4-game home series with a win over their division rival. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. And again, I want to thank you for making this show your first listen. I'm here every day. Well, I sometimes take off weekends. But even then, you can go to the YouTube page at Locked On White Sox. I usually tend to throw in a little short. I had a short yesterday about Robbie Grossman's trade, and I'll get to that in the next segment. But as you guys know, I've been practically doing this show now for almost a full month. And what I like to do is after every series, let's go over who was good and who was bad. So Paul DeJong, he hits home runs. That's what Paul DeJong does. He gets up and he hits dingers. But he had 2 multi-hit games this series. He scored the only run on Tuesday with a solo blast, and then he drove in Ramos with a 2-run shot last night. His slugging percentage is up to .469. And thankfully, he's hitting bombs to make up for that inconsistent glove. Remember, one of the reasons why he's here and Tim Anderson isn't is because he was supposed to have the better glove, and, well, DeJong's on pace to almost challenge Tim Anderson for being a terrible fielding shortstop. John Breba, he helped preserve last night's victory. Steven Wilson allowed the potential tying run to come up to the plate in the 7th. He walked 2 with 1 out, but Breba, he comes in, gets a double play, and then he pitches a scoreless 8th. Corey Lee, he had a nice game on Tuesday, 2 for 4, although he had to sit yesterday because for some reason Martin Maldonado is still on this team. Maldonado got the start, and he continues to be an automatic out, had 3 Ks last night. Average is once again under 100. Why is he still on this team? Now, I get it. Chris Flexen was very appreciative of the game that Martin Maldonado called. But you know what, Martin Maldonado, you know who else can probably call a good game? Chucky Robinson, Corey Lee. If you want Martin Maldonado to be around to tutor Corey Lee, who will then eventually tutor Edgar Quero. That's fine, but you know what? Give him like the assistant coaching job, or make him a consultant. He is an automatic out. It'll be interesting to see what they do when Max Stassi is back off the 60-day IL. Back to who is good, Tommy Pham. He collected 3 hits and 2 RBIs in this series. And now that Grossman is gone, play this man every day. He did not play. He missed 1 game in this series because, again, Pedro wants to give him some rest. Don't rest him. He's a hired gun. He's not going to be on this team in August. Play the man. Andrew Vaughn, I'm actually going to put in the mixed category because Tuesday he was terrible. He was part of that 2 through 5 whole situation on Tuesday where nobody got a hit. But he did reach base 3 times in yesterday's game. Also on Monday, he reached base once. Average is still under 200. Andrew Benintendi, again, well, he was bad on Tuesday, but came back on Wednesday with a 2-for-4 night. Also added a run. Average is still under 200. Eloy Jimenez. He had a bad one. He was 1 for 13 in this series. 3 strikeouts. Yeesh. And he came into the series. I believe he reached base safely 11 of his last 14 games is the stat I gave out, I want to say on Monday. Go back, check out Monday's episode. Maybe it was last week. Either way, I mean, he hit rock bottom on April 19th when his average was at under 100. But man, he looked like he was at the start of the season. Hopefully he can bounce back against the Guardians. Who else was bad? Michael Soroka, talked about him on yesterday's show. And it's time he goes to the pen. Flexen has earned the right to stay in the rotation. Right now you have a 6-man rotation. At some point, you should probably go to a 5-man rotation. Although I understand the logic, actually, if the Sox want to go with a 6-man rotation because they're trying to ease Garrett Crochet into the starter's role. So it makes sense, but Michael Soroka is just not effective. In fact, he wasn't even mentioned as one of the players that they wanted to trade at the deadline. Kind of shows you if the Sox are leaking that out, what they think of Michael Soroka right now. Also, you can always use an opener if you want to go with the 6-man rotation, to push back Crochet. You could call up Jonathan Cannon or Nick Nastrini because those guys should be getting innings at the major league level. Hint, hint. Mike Clevenger was terrible in this series. We talked about him extensively on Tuesday's show. And somebody in the comments said that I should be better. Mike Clevenger's wasting our time, folks. I described it on Tuesday's show. Jonathan Cannon, Nick Nastrini, when they're roughed up, it's part of the development. When Mike Clevenger's roughed up, it just keeps reinforcing why 29 other teams passed on him twice. So the commenter, I mentioned it. Yeah, he had a decent season last year in terms of the statistics, but twice 29 other teams were like, nope, I don't want this guy. Well, one thing that turned out to be good was the White Sox made a trade and actually got something for Robbie Grossman. So let's discuss that next on Locked On White Sox. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. And things with the White Sox have not been simple and easy lately, but picking more or less with their players, well, that's got to be pretty easy. Considering a lot of their players struggle to produce, you might want to go with the less. And and the chance for some nice winnings because it's simple and easy. And if you use it simple and easy, you can get some nice winnings there, as I said. And don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your prize picks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your prize pick entries today. Prize picks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit an entry in less than 60 seconds. And hey, if you're good at more or less, then this is the app for you because you should always stick to your strengths when making selections. And again, I like simple and easy. I bet you will too. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter, and I want to again thank you if you're sticking with me through the show. Hope you have been having a good week. It's Thursday. One more day until Friday. I got to figure out what I'm doing this weekend. Oh, wait, it's Mother's Day. I think I'm going to grill for my wife and my mother-in-law. Definitely will have to call my mom. Hopefully she'll enjoy what I got her delivered by DoorDash. Anyways, the Sox traded outfielder Robbie Grossman to the Texas Rangers for pitching prospect Anthony Hohopi Tuantua. Anthony Hohopi Tui Antua. Antuie. I looked it up. You know, if you watch the short that I did yesterday, I butchered his name. I scoured the internet, found a clip of him on X, and the play-by-play man said again, it's Anthony Hohopi Tui Anatua. Try saying that fast 3 times. So, Anthony, I apologize for butchering your name. But Grossman, he goes back to the Rangers. He helped them win the World Series last season. The Sox signed him, obviously, at the end of spring training. He's going to leave the White Sox with a slash line of 211, 329, 268. Had a WRC plus of 81. He was a minus 0.3 F4 player. Where the Sox will miss Grossman is before the trade, he was one of 5 players the Sox had on their active roster with an on-base percentage over 300. Yeah, remember when the Chris Getz wants players to get on base? He was one of the few of them that got on base. Although instead of bringing back outfielder Dominic Fletcher to see what he can do at the big leagues after going down to AAA Charlotte, Sox are going to add infielder Zach Remillard back to the 40-man roster, and they called him up. Grossman, he was kind of what you want to do with a veteran player. You bring him up, and then you try to flip him. And they got a decent piece in him, a decent return for him. Hohopi Tuianatua. He's already the 28th ranked prospect now in the Sox system, according to MLB Pipeline. He wasn't in the Rangers' top 30. So that again shows you the difference between the Rangers and the White Sox system. Although, and if he makes it to the majors, the last name on the back of his jersey might be the longest ever, according to UniWatch. And hats off to Sean Anderson of CHGO for finding that little nugget. He was taken in the 30th round by the Rangers in the 2019 draft. He has not given up an earned run so far this season for AA Frisco. So that's, he's only given up 1 run, but it was unearned. He has a .089 whip, 16 strikeouts this season, and that's over that. And he's logged 12.1 innings this season. He was named an MILB organizational all-star in 2022. I believe he made the Fall League All-Star game last year. He had a 2.96 ERA last season after spending time with the Rangers Complex League. Then he went to low A ball and he was promoted to high A ball. He's been in the Rangers organization since 2001, so I would just assume why he was in the Complex League was probably just had an injury in spring training. He's 24 years old, 16 career saves in the minors with 146 career strikeouts. So Anthony might not be nothing more than a bullpen arm down the road, but if he does make it to the majors, he's going to come cheap in the bullpen. And we all know how previous management spent so much of the limited financial resources they had on the bullpen and how that really helped slam that contention window shut. Because that's what you really want to do. You want to build a bullpen with young, cheap, controllable arms that can throw heat or have really nasty stuff. And then that way you can, especially for a team like the White Sox, you can use your limited financial resources on actually like upgrading the starting rotation. Or maybe getting a player in the starting rotation that puts you over the hump. Or maybe getting a second baseman or right fielder, those two eternal holes in the White Sox lineup that could have put you over the top. You don't want to be spending money on, say, Joe Kelly, Kendall Graveman, Liam Hendricks, even though we love Liam. But they put all that money into the bullpen, and then what it left you with was, let's go get Josh Harrison to play second base. That's why this is a good trade for the White Sox. They get a potential guy who could be in the bullpen. Maybe he's a closer down the road. Or maybe he's at least a setup man, but there's some value. Especially since Robbie Grossman is in the waning days of his career. He's not going to help you win. So this is a good trade for the Chicago White Sox. It was a good day for the Chicago White Sox yesterday. How many times do we get to say that? 9, because they've got 9 wins on the season. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Before I go, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now is also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And again, the White Sox host the Cleveland Guardians tonight at 6:40 p.m. Central. Hopefully the Sox can kick off a 4-game home series with a win over their division rival. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And I'll be back tomorrow. I'll go over which player qualifies for this week's What Is It You Say You Do Here. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button and give a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. And let me know your thoughts on today's topics regarding Chris Flexen's pitching performance, helping the Sox avoid getting swept by Bryan Ramos, impressing since his call-up, who is good and bad in this series, and the Robbie Grossman deal. You can leave those comments on Twitter at ToddJDub or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.